Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lawcast. This time, we're going back to cover Cody's one and only shot at the AEW title. It's Full Gear 2019. Kyush, in hindsight, do you think this was the beginning of the end of Cody's run in AEW?
It's so interesting because we're at the peak of Cody's run. Like, if you don't go back and watch these times, you might forget this company is entirely about Cody Rhodes at this point. Cody Rhodes is the king. The reactions he's getting are astronomical. But I do think that what happens is, as soon as he loses this match and can never challenge for the title again, he gets locked into his own Codyverse.
Yep.
And because he can't ever go after the title, he's stuck there and is not really relevant to the rest of the product from here on.
So, on the Steve Austin podcast, when he was asked why he left AEW, and that's one of the things I love about the Steve Austin show on Peacock, that Steve Austin's allowed to ask these kinds of questions, Cody said he didn't want to be just a gatekeeper wrestler. Like, he referenced that there's a meme that it's like the new AEW guys starter kit where it's like you come in and you beat up Cody and then you go on Jericho's podcast as like how everybody comes into AEW, which is both funny and true.
Yep.
But I mean, when he was asked about it there, that was what he said. It was basically like he felt like he was capable of more than what he was doing with the company. And that goes back to what they did here, that they, set up the stipulation that he could never be champion.
I think also, like, when Cody and they all started this company, I think he felt like he was at a point in his career where he was ready to kind of step back and be more of an executive and, like, build the future. I think all of their mission statement is we're going to build Hangman as the champ of the future, and it's not really going to be so much about us anymore. And then I think he just realized, like, halfway through, like, I still have a lot of time left.
My country needs me.
I don't really like being an executive that much, and I really want to be world champion. I think I could and should be world champion, but I swore I'd never do it here.
Yeah. It's funny, nobody talks about this as like a huge mistake. Maybe Cody wouldn't have been a good champion for AEW, but he's been an amazing world champion in WWE.
I think the thing that most people probably won't accept one way or the other is I think that the way things happened is the only way that they could have happened where everyone's happy. I don't think Cody as long-term champion in AEW was the right move. I just don't think I think he was capable of more than this company could have let him be because of all the other people they had to push to. And then he slotted like a hand into a glove into exactly what WWE needed. So I just think that I think it worked out perfectly for everyone. I don't think it was a failure on anyone's part. I just think that this is the moment you can look back and be like, yeah, this is the moment where we realize that Cody and AEW weren't two things that could coexist forever.
All right, we'll have that and a lot more to talk about. But first, we've got our three current wrestling stories, starting with AEW All Out. First, most importantly, I threw a no-hitter on the prediction contest. I got every match right.
Go to hell.
Secondly, this show was fucking insane. Both, like, in terms of its quality and, like, just some of the shit they pulled here was off the charts.
Boys and girls, the feeling is back. God, we are so back. This show ignited something in me that this company has not been able to produce in God knows how long. I swear to God, they said it was for the sickos, and you guys know that we too are the sickos.
Did Cody just, like, call in the plastic bag angle? Did he, like, do a fake voice or something to suggest that they recreate the Terry Funk Ric Flair plastic bag angle?
This is literally a reverse of when Vince told Bruce to call Dusty for the bull rope finish, and they were like, oh, what should we do to beat up Danielson? Call Cody. He knows all that old Memphis shit.
Notably, if I remember right, the plastic bag angle was on TBS, I think on the Clash of the Champions, which was insane that they did.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
this is on pay-per-view. It's very different.
And, like, I love that I think they're doing the thing where they're never going to replay it, which I think is awesome. And, like, they probably shouldn't replay that on TV because, like, this is the kind of thing I would be really concerned about a kid imitating this and somebody getting hurt really bad from it.
First things first, let's acknowledge like the whiny shit in the room where a lot of people are concerned trolling AEW about how violent this pay-per-view was. And I just want to say in regards to that A, wrestling is violent, it's okay. And B, there's nothing that happened on this pay-per-view that was really that crazy. It's just that the tone of the pay-per-view was so much grimmer and like noirish than wrestling tends to be. That, like, I can see how it would be, like, stunning to someone who's really never seen a show with a tone like this.
It's funny, off the top of your head, what are the most dangerous things that have actually happened in this company? The Darby bump, a lot of it's Darby. A bunch of Darby, like, I mean, I'm sure that was gimmick glass, but still, Darby's taken several bumps, like, off ladders that were not safe to do.
It's pretty much all Darby spots. And then some of those, like, Jeff Hardy spots before he went back into treatment. Yeah. Where he was, like, jumping off of ladders every night.
There were some Sting ones that really scared me, too.
Yeah. There's some Sammy Guevara ones that were terrifying. Like, the one where he, like, landed on Sting and he wasn't supposed to. But again, that was
bad. I was worried he'd broken Sting's neck when that happened.
But realistically, like, I think there's a couple things that Darby have done that, like, we called out on this podcast and we're like, that's not okay. What the fuck are you doing? That's way too far. Like, you can't, like, gimmick falling off a 20-foot ladder through glass. Like, it doesn't matter what the glass is made of. It's not safe. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you can put a fake seat in the chair and do a chair headshot. It's fine.
I put my faith in the sanity of this company and the people running it, that wasn't a real chair they used for that.
And I will also just say, look, I don't think chair headshots are okay. Well, obviously. We know exactly.
Not unprotected ones. I'm okay if the guy puts their hands up.
Yeah. But obviously we have a long history of, like, all of the CFE and stuff that they caused. That's horrible. I just want to be clear, though, that if you were ever going to do one, this is the most violent feud in the last 50 fucking years. So, like, maybe concern trolling isn't the right spot for this.
My thing is, I think there can be good faith criticism of this, if somebody wants to say, like, I don't want my kids watching that, I would understand that, and it's on pay-per-view.
And I do want to be clear, if this happened on television, I would say this is entirely too far.
Yeah, and I think Warner Brothers would too. There's a reason this all happened on the pay-per-view and not on Dynamite.
But with Swerve Hangman, they did everything except put a trigger warning at the start of the match to say, this is going to be fucked up. Yeah. And the rest of it, like, the bag thing on Danielson was, like, really, like, stunning in the moment, but it only lasts, like, 5 seconds and then it's over. Statlander and Willow had an incredible, like, street fight, but nothing in it was, like, insane. They brought out the light tube. That was sick.
The Thunder Rosa, was it Thunder Rosa Britt Baker that had the match on Dynamite that was so crazy?
Yeah, where Britt bled a gusher in the cage match, yeah.
That happened on TV. I thought that was insane that they did that.
Again, I think the distinction between TV and pay-per-view is very important. This isn't about protecting AEW, even though I loved every fucking moment of this pay-per-view. I loved it.
Yeah, you sicko.
It's not even just like the violence, the storytelling that went along with all of these moments. Like, guys.
There was some really good character stuff here.
Like, let's focus in on the main two, which I think are the ones that we've all been freaking out about on Twitter. So the first one is the Wheeler Yuta moment and the Jon Moxley turn. So obviously, the BCC comes out to protect Danielson from Christian and his cronies, which, by the way, apparently that's like Money in the Bank and he can just cash it in whenever. I didn't know that.
Yeah, plus we got a little Luchasaurus Jack Perry moment.
Yeah, that was cool.
I just dead named Kill Switch.
You sure did. It's Kill Switch, goddammit. And then they all get in the ring to celebrate, and then Moxley kisses Danielson on the forehead, boots him in the dick, and then chokes him out with the bag. But the most important moment to me is Wheeler Yuta is not clued into this conspiracy. Pac and Claudio are in on it.
Of course they are. Pac, that son of a bitch.
The kid gets in the ring, and you can see on his face, he's like, oh, the vibes are off. What's up with this? And then Pac grabs him, and he just has to watch and scream and cry.
Yeah, I love it. I love the come-in character, the choice he's going to have to make. Like, he's going to have to choose between Danielson and Moxley, and it's going to be great when he does.
It's so funny because when he first joined the BCC, like what an incredible moment as a character he had,
Yeah.
like making that jump from the Best Friends to the BCC. And now finally, after all this time, he's finally going to get another one where he gets to like pick sides in this war. But that's a great moment.
Yeah.
But the Hangman moment is one of the greatest story moments I've ever seen.
Okay. Two ways to interpret this. Was he going back to hurt Swerve more, or was he showing mercy and he realized what a monster he'd become?
Yeah. So in context, if you didn't see the pay-per-view, he kills Swerve. Swerve's dead. That's just the way we have to interpret this. He goes up to the top of the ramp, and then he turns back, and he gets this look in his eyes like he's just, maybe it's regret, maybe it's shame, maybe it's concern, and he takes like 3 steps back. And then, like, the crowd starts screaming because they think he's going to beat up Swerve more, and then he stops. And then he gets this look in his eyes like horror, and then he leaves.
Through the heel tunnel.
Through the heel tunnel.
Did he come out through the heel tunnel? I can't remember. I think he did.
I can't remember either.
And I think he came out through the heel tunnel, and it's the first time he's done it. Because I think previously he was coming out through the babyface tunnel.
This is the first time that Hangman really realized that he was the bad guy. But here, like, after the match, he clearly thought, like, oh, shit, like, what have I done, man? I've done something horrible. He takes a step back to check on Swerve, hears the crowd react to him like he's a monster, and then realizes in that moment that he is. That he crossed a line he can't come back from. And he sells this all with facial expressions.
There's so many interesting ways this could go, because, like, he could just, like, embrace being the bad guy. Or he could just try to be like, it's over with Swerve, like, you know, that was a personal issue and it's done. I'm back to being the old Hangman now.
The 2 ways I would love to see this go is either A, just have him be like the dark cloud that hangs around this company that, like, everyone's like, oh shit, here comes Hangman.
Yeah, we were talking before we got on about maybe giving him the Terry Funk 1989 push, where he only wrestles jobbers and he just messes each of them up every week.
Yeah, because no one else will wrestle him because they're fucking terrified because he's crossed the line that no one in this company has ever crossed. The other way I would like is if he tries to act like everything's normal and he like goes to try to talk to the Bucks and they're like, dude, you're fucking crazy. No, we're not your friends anymore.
And Ospreay beat Pac in a match that was so good it caused me to question, like, everything. At the end of that match, I was just like, I'm being way too nice to all these matches on WWE pay-per-view where I'm like, oh, it's fine, it told a story, blah, blah, blah.
It's like,
this match is so good.
This is not even to bury WWE, but, like, let's just be clear
do
about
matches
something.
like that. They don't try to do matches that good.
And again, this is a match with basically no build. There wasn't a lot to this. Ospreay really hasn't had a lot of build to most of his stuff to this point.
There was a whole thing here about how, like, Ospreay did that promo, and maybe it was only on Twitter, but it was like, he was just talking about how when he was coming up, everybody told, like, you're great, but, like, you know, there's only one, Pac is the greatest British wrestler, and you're no Pac. And, like, finally now he gets his chance to prove himself.
Yeah.
And Pac
this was
surpassed by Ospreay.
Ospreay is on a run. Like, you can't even say it. Like, you can be Jim Cornette and sit back and be like, well, blah, 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 blah.
No sell, blah, blah, blah.
Has he had any match in this company that you wouldn't call a masterpiece to this point? I don't think he has.
He's had a miss. Man, he's had some matches on Collision that were crazy good.
Like, the man is on a run of quality that we haven't seen since Peak Omega.
Really leveled his promos up, too.
Yeah. Like, this is a guy ready to become the top star of this company. And then the moment after the match where he's backstage and he runs into Ricochet, I made a noise that I don't...
Let's do it. Like, let's go. Wrestle Dream. That's my dream. In my dream, it's Will Ospreay versus Prince Puma, but, you know, I'll settle for Ricochet. Ricochet's cool, too.
And it's so funny, because this is a redo of maybe the most controversial match of this era. Like, if you guys don't remember,
Yeah.
when this match happened in New Japan, it went viral because half people thought it was the most incredible expression of wrestling ever made, and the other half thought it took a heavy fucking dump on the grave of Lou Thesz, and there's no in between.
I swear to God, I had several people who don't watch wrestling text me that, like, because they know I like wrestling, texting me being like, "Oh my God, this is insane." Have you seen this?
Like, there's sometimes the guys are so good that they just cross the plane of what everyone else even can do, and that match was one of those.
All right. Any other thought? I mean, we didn't even. What else happened on this show? Like, we didn't really talk about Danielson beating Jack Perry, or like,
which was a great match. Like,
barely
Jack
talked about
Perry's
Willow
leveled
and
up.
Statlander. Which the fact that they were able to follow that Ospreay Pac match is crazy.
Yeah, on any other show, Willow Chris Statlander tears the fucking house down. It's like the third best match on this show, but it's not their fault. And like, it followed one of the greatest matches I've ever seen.
We could talk about the fact that there was, I think, 28 different wrestlers in matches on the pre-show.
But you know who wasn't on this show? You know what the best part of this pay-per-view was, bar none? No Chris Jericho.
And in a minute, we're going to put over how awesome Jericho was back in 2019.
We sure are.
Story number 2, baseless AEW TV deal speculation. Tony Khan keeps using football metaphors to describe them being increasingly close. Like, they've been at the 50-yard line, they've been in the red zone, now I think they're at the goal line, apparently.
There's something really important going on here before we even get to what Dave Meltzer said, which is a lot of people that never ever cover AEW or TV deals or anything are suddenly reporting like weird news.
Yeah,
which makes me think
pushing shit out.
If they're getting paid to report weird news, whether it's by Warner Brothers or by AEW or by whoever the fuck is involved, maybe other TV networks who are looking to like postpone this. There is a deadline, and I don't know if they passed it yet, at which point Warner Brothers isn't the only person they can negotiate with.
Well,
apparently,
they're definitely through the exclusive rights window at this point.
Yeah.
I think that ended back in like July.
So like, it's interesting that we're here now. And then in this environment where everyone is so curious as to what's going to happen, and we're so far beyond when we thought this thing was going to be signed, David Meltzer fucking casually drops a match into the oil field.
Okay, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. It was like, so this last Friday was the last episode of SmackDown on Fox. And they did a like recap of like, you know, the great moments of the 5 years of SmackDown on Fox or whatever. It was like a thank you Fox type thing. And Meltzer's comment was, do you think they'll regret that in a few weeks? Which adds fuel to the speculation that AEW is working on a deal with Fox. Now, I think it's with that. I don't think they're going to be on the Fox network. I think they're going to be on Fox Sports. I think they're going to get a show on Fox Sports 1, which is not that big of a deal. FS1's kind of a minor cable network. But the funniest possible thing would be if Fox was like, oh, we still want wrestling on Friday night, just much cheaper than WWE. Let's get an hour of AEW on Friday nights at 9.
That would be fucking ridiculous. If like suddenly it's Friday Night Rampage.
Rampage. I've heard the name Shockwave is the name I've been hearing.
Are they going to do 4 shows?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Rampage is going to get canceled. Who knows?
I don't know. But like, whatever the case may be, there had always been speculation about Fox because Fox isn't the one who wanted like WWE to go. WWE just kind of chose to go.
They couldn't afford them. Like they didn't want to re-up them at like the price WWE was able to fetch from USA.
Yeah, but you could get AEW for half the price, and that's getting about the same rating. So I mean,
might deliver half the viewership, but still.
It's still pretty good for a Friday night on network TV these days. Yeah,
good demos on Friday. Like, I mean, SmackDown, I think always won the demo on Friday nights.
Sure.
Like, there's not much, not a lot of competition, but still.
So, still the most likely thing is just that they're going to sign a very good deal with Warner Brothers. There's no reason to really think that anything other than that is going to happen.
Yeah.
But
I think the big question is, like, do the pay-per-views? I really hope they switch the pay-per-views to a streaming service, because I'm tired of paying $50 a pop for these things. They're great. I want to pay $50 a month.
I don't think people really realize how much is going into this. This isn't as simple as just a Dynamite remains on TBS negotiation. Like, this is like the entirety of AEW and who owns it at the moment
Archives,
in terms of
streaming,
yeah.
possible whether or not Warner Brothers owns a stake in AEW, which there is much, I think, credible speculation that they do own some.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. In fact, the incomplete part when they randomly decided to give AEW way more money back in the day would have been, hey, what if we got 15% of the company and then we gave you way more money in revenue? Like that would have actually made a lot of sense.
Why not just buy the thing rather than pay? Like, why didn't USA just buy WWE? Universal just buy WWE instead of paying them like $1 billion in rights fees over the course of a decade? But less than that. Like, instead of paying them hundreds of millions of dollars a year, you could just own the thing forever.
I also think that, like, and especially now it's super expensive. I get that. But in like 2006, you could have bought WWE for $1 billion, and they definitely, and it was still then their best thing on the network. So why didn't you just do it?
And Vince maybe Vince never would have sold back then.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But yeah, it's weird. The question is, would Tony sell? Would that be the wildest possible thing to come out of this? That this is all because Tony's selling the company to Warner Brothers? That would be
possible. Crazy. How old is Shad Khan? Because there's going to come a point where Shad Khan is going to retire from like the day-to-day management of the Jaguars, and Tony's going to presumably be the guy to replace him.
Late 60s, early 70s, I think.
Yeah, like I think part of what AEW was like Tony kind of building his management chops so he can take over the football team someday.
If this is all designed to coincide with Danielson taking over the booking as he leaves, like this is all timing-wise coming along at a really kind of a perfect way.
Yeah, and Jeff Jarrett can be the new president of the company.
It's Jeff Jarrett's time, baby.
All right, story number 3. SmackDown moves to USA this Friday. It's season premiere week in WWE, which includes SmackDown moving from Fox to USA, and also Raw shortening to 2 hours starting October 7th.
I had no idea that was even happening.
No. But also it's going to go back to 3. Well, I think the length on Netflix is unspecified, but like I think 3 hours is going to be the typical length, but they'll be able to go as long as they want to.
I think, here's the thing though, is that the reason that you go 3 hours is for the advertising money. And like, why do a 3-hour wrestling show if you don't have to do a 3-hour wrestling show? Because you're not getting paid extra for the third hour.
The USA wanted 3 hours, but yeah. I assume USA now wants to try to get something over in the 10 o'clock spot for when Raw is
because they know they're going to lose it, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to use Raw as the lead-in to try to build an audience for a new show, would be my guess.
Aside from a 3-year period, Raw has been on USA for 20 years?
30
years.
It's 1993.
This is going to be fucking crazy when it's gone.
It's been 3 hours for over a decade now. It was 2012 when it switched.
USA has not had to program something else on Monday nights in a very, very long time.
Think of how much time that has stolen from our lives. That Raw, that extra hour, 52 weeks a year for over 10
Well, I'm going to tell
years.
you right now, Steve, that since about 2012, it hasn't stolen a lot of time from my life because I ain't been watching it regularly.
Good point. You've been a Hulu Raw guy.
Oh, yeah. Hulu Raw or just
YouTube clips, yeah.
The second TiVo existed, 3-hour Raw stopped being a thing for me.
This Friday, Cody defends the WWE Championship against that dastardly Solo Sikoa in a steel cage match, but will even a 16-foot-high steel cage be able to keep the bloodline out?
I'd probably not, I'm guessing.
Could we have an appearance of Roman Reigns this Friday? I think we will.
I think we will, too. It's interesting to think, I think we both think that they're going to blow this off at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So we got like 2 months.
Could Cody get his leg broken like his dad did in a steel cage?
There's nobody to turn in the same way that the Horsemen turned, but Well, hold on. So the corollary here is if the Bloodline turns on Solo, in the cage and breaks his leg.
Yeah,
That would be the Horseman cage.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either.
Yeah, I assume we might get Cody and Roman teaming at Bad Blood. I could see them in a tag match against the Bloodline at Bad Blood, and then Roman versus Solo in like Tribal Warfare at the Saudi show.
I still think that like Hikuleo is going to show up and be part of this at some point.
Yeah,
like,
I think they're just going to keep adding guys. That could be this.
Well, I mean, it just makes sense to add him because he's literally brothers with Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. So, like, and they have him. So, like, why not?
Yeah.
So, like, he would be
I'm surprised. I assumed we were getting Cody Solo at Bad Blood. I'm surprised they're doing this here.
Well, I don't, like, it's not like SummerSlam did.
So we're going to have a winner.
Yeah, it's not like SummerSlam did bad numbers or whatever, but I don't think that could main event another pay-per-view.
The main event of Bad Blood is Punk versus Drew in a Hell in a Cell match. That was announced on Monday.
Yeah, it is.
Get your bracelets on WWEShopZone.com.
You know what? I wasn't going to complain about CM Punk on this particular podcast, but let me just take like 1 second to talk about how absolutely fucking despicable it is of WWE. There's a young girl who was a fan of CM Punk who made this bracelet for him specifically, and he was so touched by it that he wears it all the time, and it became a part of this storyline. And now WWE is going to sell these fucking bracelets. They changed it just enough so they don't have to give her a fucking dime. This is bullshit. This is unbelievable bullshit.
Gotta sell those gimmicks, brother.
Like, you guys can all go fuck yourselves. And CM Punk, like, I know that you're not the one who makes the merchandising decisions, but to let your name be on this is fucked, and you know it.
It's his wife's name and his dog's name, not his name.
But also, isn't it wild that they're selling merchandise of this man's wife's name and his dog's name?
Who are these for? Are people actually gonna buy these things?
I mean, I guess. Like, getting into the friendship bracelet market is actually smart because it's actually a huge market right now for basically every big company. But, like, this is fucked. Just give this girl some money. They didn't even tell her.
All right, that was our weekly CM Punk burial.
Go to fucking hell.
I cannot wait until we get to do our later AEW seasons where we're going to get to cover all the Punk drama. That may be the thing I'm anticipating more than anything else with this podcast at this point.
I didn't start my life out as a CM Punk hater, but I can't wait to unleash some vitriol once we get to that.
All right, let's turn the clock back to Full Gear 2019. We're actually going to have some fun Punk content in the lightning round here.
Ooh.
So, coming out of All Out, Chris Jericho is our AEW champion. Cody knocked off Shawn Spears, etc., etc. The first episode of AEW Dynamite took place October 2nd, 2019 from the Capital One Arena in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and you were there. You took like a 17-hour train ride to get to D.C., right?
I sure did. I made an impulse decision like 4 days before to actually go, and I took the train by myself. I was just alone. I was 3 rows from the ramp. You can actually see me. There was actually a picture in the Washington Post about the show, and you can see me in it. And my mom lived...
Yeah, Mama Q saw that.
Okay, so my mom lived in Washington, D.C., and I did not tell her that I was coming because I had to get back on the train right after the show, and she was like, what the fuck is this?
Mama Q was having her breakfast, spat her morning coffee everywhere when she saw your face in that picture.
For reference, if you don't live in the same state as your mom and then you visit that state and you don't tell her, you'll get in trouble. It'll be a bad time.
You are a heel if you do that.
I sure am.
So initially they didn't have a rights fee. They got a split of their ad revenue and TNT paid like $500,000 a week for the production of the show. So like, that's a prove it deal. Like getting your production covered is nice because it meant they weren't taking a complete bath on this every week, but like they weren't going to be profitable at that level.
Also, let's remember what the general climate is at this point in the wrestling industry. WWE's not making any fucking money.
No, like, WWE was really struggling.
TNA's not even on TV anymore. Like, you can't call whatever fucking network. I think they were on, like, the TV Guide channel.
Oh, my God. I can't even. Yeah, Pop, I think it had become.
Yeah. So, like, at this point, there's no reason
Lucha
for any
Underground
TV
got
network.
canceled. Like Ring of Honor, was owned by Sinclair, so like they were safe from cancellation, but they're airing at like 1:00 in the morning.
Tony Khan's money gets them in the room with Turner. I don't even know how the hookup with Turner specifically even takes place in the first place, but like, it's unbelievable that they even get this deal. Because, like, why would any network even let a wrestling company try to prove it? It seems like wrestling's pretty much dead in the mainstream at this point.
The results from that first Dynamite. Cody beat Sammy Guevara. MJF beat Brandon Cutler. Pac beat Hangman Page. Riho defeated Nyla Rose to become the first AEW Women's Champion. And Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz defeated the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega after interference from Jon Moxley and the debuting Jake Hagar, who was the big surprise in the Lex Luger role.
Fucking Jack Swagger was the big surprise. That was very...
It's amazing. The feelings were so good that this company survived having Jake Hagar be the big surprise on their first episode of TV.
The buzz in the arena that day about who the surprise was going to be. Because we'd already gotten... Yeah, literally, most people thought it was Punk.
The hope was CM Punk, although, I don't know, I think he might have already shown up on the WWE Backstage show by this point.
But pretty much everybody was doing like you with Shawn Michaels with CM Punk for the first 2 years of this company. Like, every new guy was going to be
And eventually we were right.
Yeah, eventually it did happen.
Just like I was eventually right about Shawn Michaels.
Eventually.
That show drew a whopping 1.4 million viewers, which I think was more than anyone was expecting.
Much like Nitro, it turned out there was a way bigger audience for a WWE alternative than they had any idea existed.
It smashed NXT. I think NXT might have done 900,000.
It's actually very funny too, because in the beginning they were making like the NBA guys on TNT like be like, and then AEW Dynamite's coming on. Okay.
Yeah.
But like you would hear like everybody like all their announcers be like, I guess watch wrestling. I guess that's what we're pushing now, huh? All right.
A tradition unlike any other. The TNT sports announcers burying pro wrestling. I will renew my call that the Inside the NBA guys should have to talk about wrestling every week.
Yeah, this idea that they're going to keep the show going, but it's going to be about all sports, they should definitely have to talk about Dynamite and be like,
Chuck and Kenny and Ernie having to break down Dynamite just warms my heart. And Shaq's actually a fan. Shaq wrestled on one of the highest rated episodes of Dynamite ever.
Yeah, give me like a 5-minute Shaq talks about AEW Dynamite while the others just sit there and Charles Barkley reacts. That's all I'm asking for.
He put a plastic bag on his head? What the hell?
I did that to a guy back down in San Antonio one time.
So Cody threw in the stipulation that if he lost to Jericho, he would never challenge for the AEW title again. I believe this was the undesirable to undeniable promo.
It was. So
man, that was special.
A promo so fucking hot that WWE just stole it when he came back.
They also announced there would be 3 judges at ringside scoring the match in case it went to the time limit.
Dude,
who could have proposed this?
This is the greatest idea in the history of wrestling as far as I'm concerned. Like, the idea that if it goes to a 60-minute draw, we're still going to have a decision. We're just going to let Dean Malenko, Arn Anderson, and Kaiji Muto decide.
The fact that the Great Muto was one of the judges is my favorite thing. He just happened to be in town for StarCast.
Yeah, I'm sure that, like, you couldn't have kept doing this forever, because you can't keep going and getting, like, 3 judges that are, like, new judges every time. But
there's enough people.
Well, also, you can just pick the same 3 judges every time. Like, Arn and Malenko work here.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, clearly inspired by Music City Showdown with Flair.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, you might as well just inject dopamine straight into my brain when they announced that.
It's so funny, too, because the best part of all of this is that most of their fan base doesn't know anything about Music City Showdown 89. Like, why would they? So you can just read...
Sickos.
So what Cody realized is he could just redo the greatest hits of early WCW and no one would know.
Like when Shivani was interviewing him and Dustin in the limo from the airport. Shades of Flair Vader from Starrcade 93. Or when the Inner Circle smashed Dustin's hand in the car door like they did, like Zbyszko and Arn did Barry Windham at Halloween Havoc 91.
And the best part about that is that Dustin was there for some of that stuff.
Yeah, Dustin was Barry Windham's tag partner when that happened, I think.
I mean, quite literally, he knows exactly what to do.
Remember that amazing brawl where Cody's doing a promo and Jericho's up in one of the skyboxes?
Yes.
And he starts talking shit and Cody's like, this isn't the other company. There's no invisible wall here. I could just come get you up there. And he does. He uses MJF's scarf to punch through the glass, and then they proceed to just have a wild brawl out in the concourse.
This is one of those segments that really defined AEW early on. It's just like Cody was allowed to just cut promos, and he was spitting fire every single night. Like, I don't know where this came out of him. Like, that and No Invisible Wall line got like a monster Steve Austin pop.
And then this brawl kicked so much ass. This was so well done.
The moment where MJF offers him the scarf, it's like the nicest thing MJF's ever done for another person.
Yeah. I don't know, DDP, I think DDP and Dustin were the other two there, and it was against the Inner Circle guys, and they were fighting, they were throwing trash cans at each other. They had like some security out there, but it felt much less structured and produced than WWE segments of that kind did in that era.
Oh yeah, literally you could see guys in the background like shoving fans to the side to get to each other, and like security like tackles Cody as he's trying to like stuff Jericho into a Dippin' Dot stand.
We'll also get Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega in an unsanctioned lights-out match. In kayfabe, Tony Khan refused to sanction the match and said it wouldn't count against either man's win-loss record.
Which I assume is just a way to be like, well, we can't have Kenny lose every match and still pretend like he's a contender.
I guess.
I really think what's about to happen in this match is a response to the fact that they had a bunch of ideas for what they were going to do in their first match, but then it couldn't happen because he got a staph infection. Moxley
got a staph infection wrestling in Japan, I think.
So instead, they just decided to do it all here.
Yup.
And we'll get there.
They should do it all. On Dynamite on October 30th, SoCal Uncensored beat the Lucha Brothers in the finals of a tournament to become AEW's first ever tag team champions.
And a thing that made sense at the time, but will historically feel weird when you see it on a stat sheet years from now.
Sure does. I mean, look, it's so clear that Cody and the Bucks and Kenny were all like, none of us are getting to win matches at first. We're all doing jobs in the beginning. All right. Before we get to the show, are you ready for the fall of 2019 Lightning Round?
Fuck yes, I am.
There's some good stuff in here. Eric Bischoff was fired by WWE after working there for only 3 months.
This is the time where he literally proposed one idea. It was terrible. And didn't the idea that he pitched the one where they like dropped all the amps on Roman backstage? Isn't that what he pitched?
That was like his big thing. And then they had the fake Eric Rowan.
Yeah, they were like, we got to do a mystery, like the white Hummer in WCW. And then they just never paid out. And he's like, oh, you didn't like that? All right. And they just sat in catering and ate food for 3 months and then got fired.
I cannot get over what an embarrassing flop this is. And yet Eric Bischoff has the gall to present himself as an expert on wrestling and on his podcast.
Just remember every time you see a tweet of his pop up on your feed where he's just like, well, I wouldn't have done it that way. No, he wouldn't have. Because what he would have done is eat mac and cheese and catering because no one liked his ideas.
Maybe relatedly, the disastrous Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt Hell in a Cell match took place.
Sweet Jesus.
Should we do this show this October?
I want to tell you guys this right now. We've been holding off on doing this show for years out of respect to Bray Wyatt. We were literally going to do it this past year, and we were like, we can't bury him a month after he died.
Yeah.
But now we are, because that's one of the worst matches of all time.
New Japan announced their American expansion. Might have been a little better with Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Chris Jericho, and Cody Rhodes.
I will still to this day argue that it's dumb as shit that they went through with this, considering that the entire context of their American expansion was to create what is AEW. This was the expansion. They just took it with Tony Khan and did it themselves. But like, it was going to be this group going to America and doing this.
I'll tell you, if I was them, I'd be so bitter about that.
The fact that Kenny came back and there's apparently no hard is good, because I would have been pissed off forever.
Ken Shamrock wrestled an insane match in Impact where he was doing suicide dives and Hurricane Ranas.
I have no memory of this.
Yeah, apparently it was awesome. I think it was against Moose.
Why didn't somebody bring him back into the game?
I know. Has he ever appeared in AEW?
No.
That's weird. Rob Van Dam turned heel in Impact.
Oh, this is a fun time. Heel Rob Van Dam, where he's just like a playboy, like just having sex constantly with his manager. Was he in some
kind of polyamorous relationship here?
Yes. He got this new young woman, and he just cut promos in a hot tub while she was blowing him, and that was his whole character.
That sounds awesome.
I'm sure it was not bad to portray.
Anthony Ogogo signed as AEW's first developmental wrestler.
And unknowingly, it is just a future poison pill that will one day approach and destroy Cody Rhodes.
SmackDown premiered on Fox. The first episode featured The Rock making fun of Baron Corbin, Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon in a ladder match, Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns in a lumberjack match, Tyson Fury fighting Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar squashing Kofi Kingston to win the WWE title, and Cain Velasquez debuting in WWE afterwards.
They really thought that everything on that show was like, oh, the future is here. We got Fury, we got Velasquez, we're putting Brock over to fight both of them. We're going to make so much money. All of that is an unbelievable disaster. Holy shit. Cain Velasquez had one good match in AAA, and they paid him millions thinking he was good, and he sucked.
One match. He wrestled Brock in a 2-minute match in Saudi Arabia.
Holy shit.
Relatedly, WWE talent were held on a tarmac by the Saudi military over a business dispute with Vince.
This is all happening at the same time?
Yes, this was all 1 month, and this is also the month that this is the month that Dynamite premieres, this is the month NXT goes on TV. This was the wildest couple weeks, like, ever in wrestling.
I feel like this week, like, this was the month where it was like, oh my god, the news has been so crazy, and it never stopped being crazy for a single week after that. Like, this was like the touch-off moment, from which point we've reached this point where we have to cover news on a weekly basis because it never calmed down.
CM Punk joined the WWE Backstage show on Fox Sports 1. This was insane. This was CM Punk's return to WWE, was on this studio show, and he never appeared in front of a live crowd.
Because, very crucially, he refused to sign with WWE and signed the contract with Fox.
Well, I think
because they wanted him.
I think Fox wanted him, and they ran it by Vince, and Vince was okay with that, but Vince was like, I'm not bringing him back, like, to the actual show.
Yeah, and CM Punk says that he also didn't want to go back, but is that actually true?
That contradicts other things I've heard. I've heard he wanted to go back to WWE here.
It really paints the whole AEW experience in a different light if you accept that he never wanted to go to AEW in the first place. He only went there because WWE wouldn't take him back. That's very different.
This just seemed like such an obvious prelude to him actually returning to WWE, but it's like, it's the same thing they would do with where the video game company would get people like Savage and Warrior who like,
right.
It's just kind of its own thing, and Vince would be like, yeah, whatever, they can do what they want, but like, I'm not doing business with those guys.
Yep.
And finally, the Hammer. Jim Cornette was fired from the NWA after making a racist joke on commentary.
Thus touching off this era of him being... See, Jim Cornette has always been a controversial figure, has always been a hot take merchant. Of course, it's Jim Cornette. But if he had a job and he didn't have to lean 100% into this to make his money, I feel like he would have shut the fuck up a long time ago to some extent.
It's sad, like, that this is like he has to watch wrestling. Like, he has to watch this wrestling that he hates all the time. As far as I think he watches Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, watches everything every week so he can talk about it on his podcast, and he absolutely hates it. And that's bad.
I'm miserable for him. Vince Russo has to do the same thing. Let these poor, miserable old men go away, but you can't because I'm assuming they're making great money off of this.
What else are they going to make any money doing?
Exactly. It's either work the convention circuit or be this bitter old man so that while that gets hyped up.
Bischoff obviously has his podcast going, but he's also working for Conrad Thompson now selling mortgages.
That's a bummer.
Dude is 70 years old, but it's just he's had a lot of business ventures that didn't work out. He's had some financial problems. I don't want to I'm not going to make fun of him for it. Stuff happens.
He's basically back to doing what he was doing for Vern when he was 22.
Selling meat. That's
where we're at.
All right. Let's get into the show. It's Saturday, November 9th, 2019. We're at the Royal Farms Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. There's 8,200 people in attendance. Is this the building they used to run the Great American Bash in?
It is, because as JR mentions repeatedly, this is where, history has taken place on many, many occasions.
Okay, yeah, this is formerly the Baltimore Civic Arena. Yeah, this was the longtime home. Yeah, I guess he shot some things out. This is where Billy Graham beat Bruno here.
This is where Ron Simmons beat Vader for become the first Black World Champion.
Flair Funk at the Bash 89 was in this build, and Sting won the title for the first time in this build. A lot of good shit has happened in this arena over the years. And Baltimore's never had the need to build a new arena because they don't have an NBA team or anything. So
yep, exactly.
Still the same building. It's been renovated, but still same building from the 60s.
It is weird that they don't have a basketball team yet. I assume that's happening.
They had the Washington, then the Wizards once upon a time played there.
Yeah.
They were the Baltimore. I think they were the Baltimore Bullets back then.
Expansion is coming, so they might be on the list. Who knows?
Maybe. 8,200 in attendance, not quite sold out, but a decent number. They're not an automatic sellout in Baltimore.
But this is not their base place, and they're still doing great attendance numbers.
They had just run DC for that first Dynamite. They had run DC for the first Dynamite, and one of the first Dynamites was in Philly, so they're hitting the same area over and over.
And DC was a legit sellout in a big ass building. Yeah. That place could have been. They could have run bigger than that.
People
that was
hanging from the rafters.
Yeah.
They do 100,000 buys, just kind of on par with what they had been doing. Maybe you would have hoped for the number to go up now that they're on TV, but also, hadn't been that long since All Out.
Yep.
On commentary, Jim Ross and Excalibur, Golden Boy and Taz announced the pre-show.
Yeah. When they brought Taz in to do commentary for this company, I was so pissed off about it because the last time he had done commentary was that wretched run in TNA that was disgusting. He has really saved his legacy here in AEW.
Much better.
Yeah.
Plus he got him Hook. Can't be mad because he brought Hook in.
Can't be mad.
On the pre-show, Britt Baker defeated Bea Priestley in 11 minutes and 35 seconds.
An interesting note. It's funny that they're not really doing shit with any women except Riho at this point, which is why it's very clear that Kenny Omega is the one running the women's division at the moment.
When does Britt get wildly over? That's not till 2021, right?
It's late 2020, early 2021, yeah.
The opening.
I just want to say, That's something that people won't acknowledge now, but there was a time that she was extremely over.
Yeah. The opening package is each person talking about the pressure they're under tonight.
Boy, they really loved butt rock during this period, didn't they? I think these were just a bunch of like weird like indie rock bands that Cody was friends with.
Next up, or opening match, we've got Proud and Powerful Santana and Ortiz against the Young Bucks. The Rock and Roll Express are in the front row. I think Santana and Ortiz beat them up on one of the Dynamites on the way in here.
There's actually a lot of heat coming into this match, and it causes this match to be... There's not a lot of Young Bucks match that kind of transcend the Young Bucks thing.
Well, have you ever wanted to see the Young Bucks work a Rock and Roll tribute match? Because that's what we got here.
This is literally a Rock and Roll Express tribute match.
And it rocks.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and like, I'm not going to say I don't, like, this is what they should always do, but like, I was glad to see something different than the typical Young Bucks match.
Yeah. Like, seeing Rock and Roll Express versus Midnights played out here with two different tag teams was so refreshing. Like, I honestly think this is kind of what the Young Bucks should do in general.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Bucks are showing off, and then Nick misses a kick. And hits his shin on the ring post, and he's selling his knee for the rest of the match. So he gets his ass kicked for a while.
Yep. Especially the spot where like he like goes to springboard off the ropes and his leg collapses. Yeah. That's an amazing spot.
It was great selling. Yeah, he couldn't do the Meltzer driver. He spits his gum in Santana's face, and Santana puts it in his mouth.
And they chant "You sick fuck" at him, and he spits it back.
Nick gets powerbombed as we hit 20 minutes gone in the match. Santana and Ortiz hit the street sweeper, and they get a massive upset win. Crowd was stunned.
This is a huge moment for them.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to be a huge team in this company, and then they...
You know, the Inner Circle was over, but yeah, it just didn't quite click for them.
The problem is nobody really survived the breakup of the Inner Circle. Everybody became a lesser version of themselves once that stable ended.
Including Jericho.
They decided that Santana was a singles act, but then he got hurt, and then he came back, and there just wasn't a place for him, and yeah, it all falls apart.
Yeah, I thought this was great. This was so different than the typical Young Bucks match. I really enjoyed it.
And Proud and Powerful, it killed it. Incredible. Like, looked like absolute stars here.
Morton and Gibson get in the ring, and Ricky Morton hits a Canadian Destroyer.
So, in order to make this Canadian Destroyer happen, he's on the apron. The other two, he grabs the ropes. The other two, Matt Jackson and Robert Gibson, pull the ropes to help him. He jumps as high as he can. Santana jumps into the air to catch him and do it to himself, and they still barely get him over to do this move.
Not just anybody can do it. Bad Bunny can do it, though.
But still, like, but this moment, even though it looks sloppy as shit, it's so cool to see old man Ricky Morton do the fucking Canadian Destroyer.
And then he did a suicide dive to boot onto Sammy Guevara.
Do you think he was thinking the whole time that if he had known about the Canadian Destroyer back in 1986, he could have gone singles because he would have had an actual offensive move? Yeah.
Second match, Pac versus Hangman Page. Hangman looking to avenge his loss to Pac on the first episode of Dynamite. Pac is 3-0-1 in AEW. Hangman is 3-2.
This is exactly what I wanted to see on a show at this point. It's so weird to see, like, clean cut young man Hangman
Baby
here.
Hangman, yeah.
This match I primarily remembered, and definitely it held true when I watched it this time, as the match where Crank JR comes out, and he just starts being like, no high-flying moves ever. I don't like them. Stop doing them.
Every time Hangman tries to do something, he's like, unnecessarily leaving to your feet will cost you every time.
You are supposed to be Stan Hansen, young man.
Yeah, he does a moonsault down to the floor and jacks up his knee. He sets up for the buckshot lariat, but Pac bails to the floor, and then Pac hits a brain buster onto a chair.
That was disgusting.
Pac just barely beats the count into the ring. Pac goes to the top. He hits a missile drop kick. He goes to the top, but Page crotches him. Page does the avalanche fallaway slam. Tries the buckshot, but gets caught with a super kick and a German suplex. Pac comes off the rope, and Page catches him with a pop-up powerbomb. Page tries the Deadeye, but Pac gets him in the Brutalizer. Page manages to get the ropes. Pac goes for the Black Arrow, but Page rolls out of the way. Page goes for the buckshot lariat. Pac dodges it. Page comes off the ropes with a big clothesline, hits the Deadeye for the 1-2-3. Awesome match. Great win for Hangman.
Incredible match. Pac's another guy who has never missed in a single match in his company. He's just come and go so often that
except when he has immigration issues every once in a while.
But this is a great match. I popped big for seeing Hangman win with the Deadeye, which I think he always should. This is killer. Really establishes Hangman. I like that at the beginning of the match when he was coming out, they mentioned that Hangman is reeling still from losing that match to Jericho. Yeah. Like he had his family in attendance and stuff, because that becomes his character. I don't know if they knew that from the beginning they were going to do that. But that idea,
bad alcoholic Hangman.
Yeah, they're already leading into that, whether they know it or not.
Next up, for some reason, we get Shawn Spears versus Bad Boy Joey Janela.
JR says, and I quote, Joey Janela has it. He's going to be a star. Big whiff on that one, JR.
JR and Excalibur reference Illinois football getting a big win. That was over Michigan State 38-34 in a game I bitterly remember.
Let's say, did that piss you off when they brought it up?
Yeah, I was not happy watching the show. Well, I had to Google it, because when they said it, I was like, who the fuck did it? Then I was thinking about it, and then I was like, wait, was that when they beat Michigan State at Michigan State? And it turned out it was. We were up 28-7 and blew the lead, and it was basically the end of the Mark D'Antonio era.
Sorry, buddy. This is what you get, though, after all the shows we've done that are just the Detroit Pistons just won the title, and here they all are. This is the reverse of that.
All the times I've buried the Chicago Bears and your other favorite sports teams.
Yeah. Let's talk about all the times that we've seen a show where, Chicago Bears are presented positively, or the Toronto Raptors got to be at ringside. Never!
Janela tries a crossbody off the apron, but Spears power slams him. Spears uses Janela's hair to tie him to the ropes. I dug that.
Yeah, this was cool.
Janela goes for a missile drop kick, but Spears reverses it into a sharpshooter. He makes it to the ropes for the break. Janela with a flip dive to the floor. He goes back to the top, but Spears suplexes him off. Janela does a suicide dive. He goes back to the top, but Spears cuts him off and hits a backbreaker onto the turnbuckle. That was cool.
Woof, yeah, I love that.
Tully distracts Earl Hebner. Spears undoes the turnbuckle pad. As Hebner is replacing the pad, Tully and Spears hit a spike pile driver on the floor.
Yo!
Death Valley driver by Spears gets the win. That was fine. I didn't hate it.
Again, coming out of the Cody match in this one, I don't know how I felt about it at the time, but looking at it here, I would have thought that Spears was going to have a good run.
I don't remember a single thing he does after this.
Well, he's MJF's sidekick during the Pinnacle.
I forgot about that.
Here's the thing. The Pinnacle was one of the coolest things this company ever did, but I feel like everyone forgets about it because it just kind of ended.
Can't tell you any of the members of the Pinnacle other than MJF and Wardlow.
It was FTR and Shawn Spears and Tully.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they were an amazing stable.
Yeah.
But they only got 3 months and then they had to disband.
Yeah. Next up, the tag titles. SCU versus Pentagon and Ray Fenix against Private Party. Man, I thought the world of Private Party when this promotion got going, and then, I don't know, somehow they're still with the company.
Yeah, they got a renewed push 3 months ago, and there were all sorts of people online being yeah, push these young guys, and I'm I guess they are young still, but they got their push 5 years ago.
Oh, this was a good, fast-paced match. Lots of high flying.
This is kind of boring, if I'm being honest.
Okay. SCU hit the SCU later, and they win after 10 minutes. Didn't quite hit the gear I was expecting it to.
No, the Lucha Brothers are definitely capable of more than this.
Why weren't the Lucha Brothers the original tag champions?
They should have been.
Yeah.
I think they just thought that SCU was like such an over gimmick, but like again, that was an indie gimmick that was over. It wasn't necessarily super over in front of the AEW crowd, but they didn't know that yet because they only had like a month of TV.
Pentagon and Fenix attack SCU after the match. Then the lights go out, and when they come back on, a second Pentagon attacks the original Pentagon, and it turns out it's Christopher Daniels. This reveal makes no sense to me watching this back.
So they put him out. So I guess this was supposed to be... But, like, wouldn't it have made more sense if he had come back like this to help them win the match? Because they still won the match. Like, having it be after the match is kind of odd. Yeah. And then he doesn't actually get his hands on any of them, really. And then they never pay this off any further.
Next up, for the AEW Women's title, Riho versus Emi Sakura. This was so good.
Like, the degree to which people were burying this online coming into it, like, who the fuck is Emi Sakura? Who the fuck is Riho?
She trained Riho. She taught her everything Riho knows. But did she teach Riho everything Emi knows? Let's find out.
Yeah.
Stories can be told in the ring.
Like, it's okay to watch, like, the hype video and find out who people are. Riho was the first triggering of Jim Cornette that brought on the current era we live in today.
I just get so tired of people thinking that, like, every feud has to be about a friendship bracelet.
Yeah. Like, if every feud was Swerve Hangman,
nothing would be Swerve Hangman.
Yeah. Like, it's okay. Some feuds should be comedy. Some feuds should be mentor versus mentee. Some feuds should be broken friendship.
The student against the master. Has Riho surpassed her mentor? Riho started training when she was 9, and Sakura was training her. So Sakura is a fully grown woman, and now this kid she trained is the champion.
Sakura's been training for 24 years. Riho is 22 years old.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this match is. And also, where is the feeling of wonderment that we felt? Like, when you watch Nitro as a kid and a new luchador would show up and you'd be like, yo, this dude's so fucking cool.
What do we do? That's cool. Who's this?
Where is that? Why do we have to know everything about everyone? Like, just, anyway.
Because
I was just so mad at it.
Certain accounts need things to complain about, and a lot of people have no original thoughts.
That's a good point. Like, I knew who Emi Sakura was because I watched Joshi in the 2000s, and she's fucking incredible. Anyway, let's get to the match, which is awesome. Yeah.
I thought this match banged.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sakura just works over Riho. She's obviously much bigger and stronger. Riho comes back with a crossbody from the top. Sakura turns the tide with a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, a Vader stomp, and a reverse Vader bomb.
Yeah.
Riho with a double stomp, a Northern Lights suplex, a double stomp from the second rope, and then one from the top, but Sakura bridges out of the pin.
That was cool.
Sakura hits a Saito suplex and a Stormbreaker.
Yeah, she hits a fucking Stormbreaker.
Yeah. Great exchange of pinning combinations. Ends with Riho dropping 2 knees and then rolling Sakura up to end an awesome match that, like, won over a crowd that was totally cold to it at first.
Yeah. Say what you will about, like, the Joshi division or Kenny, like, pushing the women early in the beginning. But, like, he was right to push Riho in the beginning. Because you're pushing all cold women that nobody knows. And Riho wins over every fucking crowd she performs in front of. To this day. Like, they don't have to know who she is. She wins them over every time.
It was like, you know, Chris Benoit or Eddie Guerrero back on the early Nitros, where they would come out to silence, and then by the end of the match, they'd get a standing ovation.
Yeah, because what's cooler than, like, a 98-pound girl who turns out to be a fucking badass who can actually win?
Yeah.
Win credibly.
That's about as basic pro wrestling as it gets. Little cute baby face against a big nasty heel.
And she's an underdog against literally everyone.
Then we get a great promo for Cody versus Jericho with comments from Brandy, Dustin, MJF, and Mama Rhodes about how much this means to Cody. You know, Brandy's like, you know, when I found out Cody was fighting for the title at Full Gear, I just knew, you know, we aren't going to have Cody for the next couple weeks because he's going to be so dialed in training for his match.
Cody had this quality here, and he still has it now, but like it was so intense then. And I guess really it's just that he is actually going for it in a way that other wrestlers don't.
Yeah.
Like I forget what the word exactly is. Earnestness. That's what it is. Like every one of his feuds is just Cody laying in a bath in a dark room thinking only about Jericho. This is the kind of thing nobody does in wrestling now because like they're afraid to be uncool about it.
Voice cracks, insecurity. I have to win.
Like, the idea that Cody would put this stipulation on himself for no real reason is so in character.
Yep, idiot.
Because, of course, he would. He's an idiot.
Moron. Yeah.
But his word is his bond.
Yeah. He'll never go back on that. All right, time for the big match for the AEW World Title, Chris Jericho against Cody. As a reminder, if Cody loses, he'll never be able to challenge for the title again. Time limit is 60 minutes. If they go to the time limit, the judges will decide the winner.
Real quick, I just want to point out, somebody messaged me earlier. Apparently they have taken the CM Punk friendship bracelet off of WWE Shop because of the response to it. So good. Fuck you guys.
Good. Bullying works.
Yeah.
All right. Our three judges are Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, and yes, Kaiji Muto.
The pop I let out, both originally and here, at seeing him in his AEW hat. Oh, so good.
Cody's out first with MJF, who will serve as his corner man. Mama Rhodes is in the front row to watch her son get beat.
The most beautiful thing about what they do with MJF here is that they've established him with Cody for so long that even though you know he's a scumbag, when he comes out with Cody here, there's no thought in your mind that he might betray him. Like, it's gone on long enough that, like, I don't think anybody had even passively in the back of their head that he was going to turn heel. Like, that's the genius of this.
I thought Cody was going to win here. Like, when they did the I'll never be champion if I don't win stipulation, I just assumed that was leading to him winning the title.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought he was going to win.
Jericho is seconded by the big guy, Jake Hagar.
That makes more sense as a second if you're going to have somebody. Sure.
Big Hurt. I'd rather have Hagar backing me up than MJF, I think.
The Big Hurt isn't bad, and he is by far the tallest man in this company now.
So much bigger than everyone else. Lots of stalling from Jericho early. He argues with Malenko, who apparently hasn't forgotten Jericho, tortured him back in WCW.
I did love that moment, and like JR being like, oh, they don't like each other, and then JR jumping back in and being like, but he's going to be, objective. He wouldn't be biased.
Seems a little unfair to have Arn judging here. The other thing I thought there was going to be shenanigans, because they didn't announce the judges in advance, so I thought there might be shenanigans. I didn't really have a concrete theory, but I thought there might be shenanigans with the judges.
Doesn't it make sense to have like one judge who would be like favor Jericho, one judge who would favor Cody, and an impartial judge?
Yeah, but it doesn't really work out that way.
There's two judges, one judge who hates Jericho, one judge who loves Cody, and one guy who's completely impartial and doesn't care.
Muto, who doesn't know who either of these guys are.
But who would you even find who would be on Jericho's side? Like,
who would be God, does Jericho have any friends in pro wrestling?
I guess Lance Storm, maybe?
Yeah, that would have been a good one. I think Lance might have been working for WWE at this point.
Yeah,
Don Callis.
No one knows who that is. Well, no, actually they would because of his association with Kenny.
Cody gets a nice power slam for the first near fall of the match. He does a dive over the top rope and crashes and burns on the ramp. They used the ramp that connects to the ring, and I think it was specifically for this spot.
Yes. So he crashes and burns head first, and it's one of those ramps it's not just like a smooth thing. It's got like that diamond grip stuff that's like textured. So he hits his face on it, and the idea is that he like shreds his face over his right eye.
Reality, like when they showed the replay, he landed on his hands. This was safe, and then he bladed.
Of course. But he does blade in such a way that it clearly looks like he shredded his face open.
Yeah, and he really sells this, and he's begging the referee not to stop the match.
Yeah.
Jericho works Cody over for the next couple minutes. Cody fires up, but he misses the moonsault. Jericho goes for the Lionsault, but Cody gets his knees up. Cody hits the Cody Cutter and a disaster kick that knocks Jericho to the floor. Jericho runs Cody's back into the post. He talks some shit to Mama Rhodes and she slaps him. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
You don't mess with Mama Rhodes.
Mama Rhodes has slapped more wrestlers.
I know. Back in the ring, Cody hits the Alabama Slam. I love JR asking Excalibur what Bob Holly called that, and Excalibur's like, I have no fucking idea. Cody puts on the figure 4. Hager saves Jericho by punching Cody in the head to break the hold, and then he hits another big right hand. At this point, Aubrey Edwards ejects Hagar, and he attacks MJF.
Yeah.
That distracts her long enough for Jericho to hit Cody with the title belt, but Cody kicks out. Cody comes back. He hits the crossroads, but Jericho gets the shoulder up. He does the dusty, punches and the bionic elbow. Jericho catches Cody coming off the ropes with a code breaker for a very close 2 count. I thought that might be it.
I thought that was it, yeah.
Although I didn't think we were getting the finish until Jericho at least went for the Judas effect.
Agreed, because they've been establishing that this whole time.
Jericho gets Cody's weight belt. Was this Jericho's? Because Jericho wore a weight belt here too. I think he whipped Cody with Jericho's own weight belt.
Yeah, he had his own that said Le Champion on it.
Cody goes for a Hurricane Run off the top, but Jericho rides him down into the walls of Jericho. I love that spot.
My God.
Cody gets the ropes. Jericho argues with Edwards. She shoves Jericho, and Cody rolls him up for a close 2 count.
I thought that might be it, too.
Jericho reapplies the hold. He sits down into the Lion Tamer, and he starts kneeing Cody in the back of the head. Oh, my God.
This is the most vicious I've seen Jericho do this move ever. Like, this is disgusting.
The Lion Tamer hurts like hell, too. That's why he stopped doing it, because the big guys he was wrestling in WWE couldn't take it.
And now they start showing, like, MJF on the outside, like, agonizing.
Yeah.
I wish they had established, like, the throwing in the towel thing more, because obviously that's never happened in this company, but it hasn't happened in any company in years.
Since Owen Hart screwed Bret Hart back at Survivor Series 94.
Yeah, but I wish they had, like, established that that's
part
of
the rules. Your corner man has the right to throw in the towel and stop the match.
Yeah, they should have just listed that. But whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from the drama wish that they had. But anyway, they just show MJF, like, agonizing over and over.
After about 30 seconds, he throws in the towel. The match is stopped. Jericho's declared the winner. JR and Excalibur both put MJF over for saving Cody from serious injury.
Yeah, I do want to point out that in this moment, it doesn't look like a heel act to have done this. It just looks like he was sympathetic. Because Cody is going to die. Like, Cody's never going to quit, but, like, he's getting annihilated at this point. There's blood all over the ring.
Jericho leaves and he celebrates with the Inner Circle. That leaves Cody and MJF in the ring. Cody's upset, but he forgives MJF, offers him a hug, and MJF kicks him in the balls.
MJF's now iconic, does it in every feud, quick kick to the nuts.
Signature move.
The boos. Like, betraying Cody at this point is so unthinkable. He's the nicest guy.
This was so well done. This is awesome.
MJF goes from opening match whatever to a main eventer with one kick. That's how good this is.
And this match was
unbelievable.
Man, what a great, this is what I want. This is old school Graps right here.
And I want to be clear, Jericho's not in great shape at this point. It looks like his knees are kind of fucked. He's got a pot belly, but he brings it, and Cody is on another level.
This is great.
Cody's finally gone past the Mid-South cosplay, and now he's just doing the thing.
Yeah, what I want out of a world championship match right here.
Absolutely.
Did you catch the fan beating MJF with a beer as he walks up the ramp? That guy
I
had a
did see
great
that.
aim.
Also, like, the big grin MJF gets on his head
Yeah.
when he does that, because in that moment, he's thinking, like, fuck yeah, it got over. Hell yeah.
All right, main event time. We've got the lights out match as Jon Moxley takes on Kenny Omega. I remember as this show was going on, when Cody and Jericho started, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this show might only be 3 hours.
Because lots of people forgot that this match was actually happening.
Yeah.
Oh boy, Steve, that is not the case.
This match went 42 minutes.
If I had told you a month before this match took place, let's say 6 months before AEW ever existed, that Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley were going to wrestle in a 45-minute death match on pay-per-view, you would have, like, clawed over glass to get to that match.
But I also would have been like, are you out of your fucking mind? Kenny in a death match? And Moxley in a 45-minute match?
And, like, while neither one of those two does a bad job here, it's clear that should have been a thought that somebody else had.
They brawl around ringside. They fight up to the set. They go back to the ring. Moxley uses a barbed wire bat on Omega. Kenny pile drives Moxley on a trash can. Moxley goes to do a suicide dive, but Omega hits him with a broom wrapped in barbed wire.
Because he's the sweeper.
The cleaner.
Yes, I know. But he started calling himself the sweeper randomly in there, too.
Did he forget his nickname?
No, I think it's because I think that's actually after this. But, like, I think that's when he wins all the belts. He starts calling himself the sweeper in addition to the cleaner. Yeah. I don't remember when exactly that was.
Omega does a rolling Samoan drop into a moonsault from the top rope with a trash can. That kicked ass.
Yeah.
Omega then pulls out a giant board covered in mouse traps.
I was on board for that. In fact, like, we should probably talk about the point in this match where we both kind of checked out on it. I'm still all in with the mouse traps. This kicks ass.
Omega gets slammed on the mouse traps.
Like, only like 3 of them go off, which was kind of a bummer, but like, it was still a cool idea.
Not the last time Kenny Omega would be involved in a massively disappointing prop match.
Actually, these two should just never be allowed to wrestle each other again because it's a cursed matchup.
Moxley brings a chain into the ring. He slams Omega on the chains, chokes him with them. Omega comes back with a Snapdragon suplex on the chain. Moxley does a back suplex on the chain. Omega then hangs Moxley with the chain.
This is the end to the match between Hangman and Swerve before the one that we just got, and it was a credible end that was incredibly brutal and satisfying.
20 minutes left.
20 minutes left!
I don't know. There's a lot of time left.
What the fuck are we doing?
Omega lets go. He hits the Terminator dive through a table. Omega pulls out a bag of broken glass.
Yep.
Takes a big shard of it and slices Moxley's hand, pours the glass on the canvas and hits a spine buster on it, and then puts Moxley in a sharpshooter on the glass.
That should have been the finish. Like, this is right about the time in the match when it should have ended. So, like, anything they do from here, they're going to do like 20 more things. All of them could have been the finish to the match. All of them.
Moxley German suplexes Omega on the glass. Omega comes back with 2 V-triggers. Moxley comes up the ramp, and Omega carves his forehead up with a screwdriver.
That screwdriver's going to come back to haunt Kenny one day.
Yeah. Omega calls for the Elite to bring out a massive barbed wire spider web.
So this is the Caribbean spider web of death. So this is a thing that has been established on the independent scene in like IWAMS and in Puerto Rico before, where the idea is they put this thing in the middle of the ring and whoever gets thrown into it first loses.
Oh, that could have been the stipulation here, and I would have enjoyed this more.
like, quite literally, if they'd have been like, the loser's the guy who gets thrown into this giant spider web of barbed wire, that would have been an acceptable way for this to end. And also, like, what I just said, Excalibur doesn't know that. JR doesn't know that. None of the fans know that, because who the fuck was watching IWAMS in the 2000s except me to review it against my will?
Moxley ends up suplexing Kenny into the barbed wire.
Incredible spot, over the top. The idea that the match continues after that is crazy.
Like, within 30
like,
seconds, Omega's up, and he V-triggers, like, Moxley through some glass.
Again, like, this is like a child's sandbox full of barbed wire that they both go into. This should have been the end. It should have just been like, neither one can respond to the count. It's over. They're both dead in barbed wire. No, they're up in 30 seconds. A very cool spot where Kenny V-triggers him into like a lighting fixture with like some plate glass over it. That was neat. But like, any of this could be the end. It's not the end yet.
No, there's still more. They go back to the ring. Moxley hits a paradigm shift on the glass, but Omega kicks out. Moxley starts cutting the canvas loose. He pulls the canvas and the padding up to expose the wood boards that support the ring.
I remember the first time I ever saw this spot, and I thought it was the coolest, most brutal thing I'd ever seen. I think it was Bully Ray doing it to, like, Jeff Hardy in TNA. And I was like, damn, that's fucking crazy. Here, I was just like, do we have to? Like, I guess you gotta do something, because apparently 85 paradigm shifts don't do it, so whatever.
Moxley goes for a pile driver, but Omega backdrops him. Omega hits a paradigm shift on the wood. He then goes up top and goes for the Phoenix Splash, but he misses and hits the wood.
Sure.
Moxley finishes him off with the Death Rider onto the wood panels.
Just want to be clear. The distinction between the Death Rider and the Paradigm Shift is that he lifts you up into the air for the Death Rider. I know some people have been confused about that. That's why it's the more dangerous move. Just want to be clear about that. Also, why? This match goes so long.
Yeah, I did not care for this. I got bored. Like, I was into it for about the first 20 minutes, and then it went twice as long as that.
This match is everything that, like, the Jim Cornettes of the world say that regular AEW is. It's just way too much. There's no selling whatsoever. We're just doing shit to do shit. It has no meaning whatsoever. This match isn't earned. This feud isn't hot enough for a death match, much less this. There's no way to defend this. This enters into a pantheon with Edge versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania and the Gargano versus Ciampa matches where they just go 50 minutes for no fucking reason and it ruins the match.
Oh, man. And that's a wrap for this pay-per-view. I don't know, where would you rank this of the AEW pay-per-view so far? I think for me the main event does drag it down a little bit.
The rest of this show is so good, is the thing. Like, there's not a bad match on this show except for the main event, which is bizarre.
It was nearly the last hour of the show was taken up by this main event and the stuff surrounding it.
Yeah, so, like, I think this is one of the weakest shows that AEW ever put on, just because, can you think of another unsatisfying main event they ever did? Like,
I guess the exploding ring match because of just what a dud the fireworks were.
Absolutely true. And I don't really love, like, the Stadium Stampede. I don't really love, like, those kind of matches. But, like, usually those aren't the main event anyway. So, like, this is a company that puts on great main events literally every time. So, yeah, I think this has got to be in, like, the bottom.
I think this is, like, unquestionably the worst AEW pay-per-view main event.
For sure. Like, that exploding barbed wire match, unfortunately the ending was what it was, but it was a much better match than this was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, this isn't a terrible show, but I think this might be the worst AEW show.
All right. Do you want to do Twitter questions or Stump Steve first?
Let's try to stump Steve. Steve!
You've had a little success against me in recent weeks. I've been struggling with the AEW Stump Steves.
Yeah, I'm curious how this one's going to go. So, there have been 5 full gears in the history of this company, right?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, 5. Only 6 men have ever main evented Full Gear. Can you name those 6 men?
Okay, obviously Kenny and Moxley have done it.
Correct.
Hangman
Hangman's one.
beat Kenny for the title in 21.
Mm-hmm.
MJF beat Moxley for the title at Full Gear 22.
That's correct. You've named 4. Now you need to name the 2 people who only main evented it once. Everybody else has main evented it multiple times.
Full Gear 2020, Mox was still champion. I'm trying to remember who he wrestled there. I think he wrestled Eddie at All Out 2020, if I'm remembering right. Or I'll come back to that.
Okay.
What was Full Gear last year? What was going on in AEW 1 year ago? Who was the champion? Who am I?
MJF was the champion, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and it was... Oh, God, am I going to confuse... was it MJF versus Jay White?
It was Jay White, that's correct.
That feels so long ago.
It does.
Like
That was just last year. Less than a year.
Jay White doesn't do anything now.
Yep.
Jay White, wrestles on Rampage now.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So one more.
Full Gear 2020. Mox is the champion.
Correct.
Wait, did he work with that? He worked with Eddie at Full Gear too. He worked with Eddie twice in a row, didn't he?
That is correct. It is Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match for the championship.
God, Eddie Kingston coming into AEW for what I think was going to be a one-time appearance and then just instantly getting thrown into the main event is one of the best stories ever in wrestling.
Yes, because he just kills it every single time.
Oh, I think he was literally just going to wrestle Cody, and that
He was.
it.
And then I think somebody was like, well, he and Mox are friends. Maybe they could have a match. And then he just kept killing it and killing it and killing it.
All right. You didn't stump, Steve.
Sure didn't.
All right. Twitter questions. Only got one this week. I was a little late to post it. Tiles asks, what do you think AEW and Cody's intentions behind the no title shot ever again stipulation were long term? What was the plan for Cody at that point? That type of storytelling handcuff almost feels like setting a timer off on his time left in the company. I agree. I think it was a political thing he got talked into by Kenny and the Bucks and maybe Tony, that they were just like, you can't book yourself to be champion, blah, blah, blah. But it's funny because, again, like I said before, Kenny's allowed to be champion. The Young Bucks are allowed to be the tag champions.
Yeah. There's an important reality in this company that I think people undersell when it comes to this period, and that's that I think there's only one long-term plan in this company at this point. And that long-term plan is the Hangman storyline with the Elite that they intend to tell that we're going to get to cover the end of, or the kind of the crux of as we get closer to it. That was ruined by COVID because Hangman was going to turn heel on the Elite and there was going to be a whole thing. That all doesn't happen, which is why I don't think most people really think about it. But I don't think there was a clear-cut future for Cody at this point in terms of this is where we're going down the line. And I think in terms of this, I think the reason Cody would have agreed to it is because the stipulation does make MJF's betrayal way, way, way worse. It really does put that segment over more, that MJF literally costs him his only opportunity at the title.
Yeah, and the thing I thought MJF could win the title, and Cody wouldn't be able to challenge him for it until he agreed to put his career on the line, and then they could do. But I still I would have hated to go back on that stipulation because, I don't know, I'm trying to think, have they done other stipulations like this? Like, this stipulation they stuck to. He never got a shot at the title again.
I'm sure there were people backstage too who were telling him, like, it's wrestling, you can just go around it. But AEW as a company doesn't really go back on stipulations like this. They don't make them very often, and when they do it.
That was one of the things they did really well in the beginning was they had finishes. They were winners and losers in this company.
And let me say this, I think we all think, like, man, it really fucked Cody that they never let him actually get a match for the title, and it really put him in a box so he was able. But what I will say is, this actually helps to establish this company's credibility and Tony's credibility with the audience, because they never go back on this. Even though it kills Cody Rhodes that they never go back on this, they would rather actually not let him get this match than keep him. Like, they hold to this. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Not a fan of it. Think it was a big mistake.
I completely agree that it's a big mistake. But I do appreciate that once they made the mistake, they stuck to their guns and they actually came through.
Yeah. All right. That's a wrap for this week. Next time, we get to Revolution 2020, crossing into the cursed year of 2020. But this show was right before the pandemic.
This is the last good thing that happened in the world before it all went to hell.
For a long time.
Yeah.
Last big AEW show in front of a crowd, and in front of like a proper crowd until like June 2021.
And this is a fascinating show because there's a lot of really good and interesting stuff on it. But it's stuff that I don't think anybody really remembers this pay-per-view because of COVID and how everything changes afterwards. But this is a big deal show containing what some people believe is the greatest tag team wrestling match of all time.
Yeah, can't wait to talk about that. Well, plus we've got, Cody versus MJF after he's, overcome MJF's 3 conditions, and Jericho versus Moxley for the title.
And this is Orange Cassidy's first pay-per-view match with this company, as the first time they actually try him out as a serious competitor, and it works.
Yeah, we'll have all that and more next time on the Lawcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next time.